Hello, everyone. Welcome to Denver Public Library's celebration of National Poetry Month today. It is also Earth Day, so today's program will pay tribute to both. And I'm so excited to hear from our four amazing poets today. My name is Erica, and I'm part of the Denver Public Library. If this is your first time joining a Denver Public Library program, welcome. So glad you are here. If this is not your first time and you are coming back, well, welcome back. We are also really happy you are here with us. Before we get started, I would like to first turn it over to one of our poets to acknowledge the land we are occupying. So Franklin Cruz, thank you so much for allowing us or blessing us with this special land acknowledgement.
Bienvenidos todos, welcome everyone. Just want to take this time and honor the land in the indigenous ways. So thank you for giving me this space. Ometeo, Tlazokamati, Tlazokamate Ometeo, gracias a los cuatro elementos, el fuego, la tierra, el agua y el aire. Gracias a los ancestros del pasado, los ancestros que somos y los ancestros que siguen. Thank you to the stewards of this land, the Cheyenne, the Ute, the Arapaho, the Dakota. Thank you for holding this land, curating it so that we may occupy it here now. Thank you for those who still protect the land, the water protectors, the land protectors, and the air protectors. May we all love this land as it loves us back. Ometeo, Tlazokamati, Tlazokamati, Ometeo.
Franklin, thank you so much. And we will do some formal introduction of Franklin in just a little bit. I tell you, are all in for a very special treat today. And I admit, I feel like I always become a bit of a fangirl around poets. I always walk away inspired and in awe once I hear a poet share their talent and with the world, regardless of the topic. So needless to say, I've been giddy all day today. So sit back and enjoy today's program. To kick us off today, we do have someone that I am a fan of from afar. So we will kick it off with Suzi Q. She is an award-winning artist, activist, and educator who lives in Denver. Her most recent collection of poems, A Gospel of Bones, is available from Alternating Current Press. And her forthcoming collection, super excited about this, is Poems for the End of the World. And that will be available from Finishing Line Press in June 2021. So super excited for that and just really grateful for you sharing your time and space with us, Suzi. So take it away.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Erica, and thank you for that blessing, Franklin. And thank you to everyone at Denver Public Library for holding this space for us tonight. I'm Suzi Q Smith, and she, her, hers, and I'm grateful that I get to be here tonight. I meant to change that in my Zoom name, and I forgot to add my pronouns. So I'm going to do that right now. Well, maybe I'm not going to do that right now. So here we are. I'm going to read you some poems this evening. So it's Earth Day. That's definitely on my mind presently. And also upon this earth, there are so many different things transitioning and changing. So I'm going to be reading from poems for the end of the world in many of the different ways that the world ends. I thought I'd start with a poem that is very, very Denver. If you are someone who grew up in Denver public schools, you might be able to relate to this one. This is called Outdoor Education for Inner City Kids. In Denver, every public school student goes to Ballarat Outdoor Education in 5th grade, which includes a night walk down a mountain path. We are meant to walk alone. When I went, I was afraid of the dark, or the mountain lions, or whatever the dark might have held. My best friend Julia and I decided that whichever of us went first would wait on the path for the other. I don't remember now which one of us went first or who waited for whom, but I do remember we kept our word, that we walked most of that dark stretch, still frightened, together. So it's a little ode to Ballarat, which is many of us who live in the city and grew up in the city. Many times our first introduction to wildlife and wilderness and being outside in nature. So shout out to Ballarat and anyone that came through it. So again, I'm from Denver originally. I grew up in Park Hill, and this next poem is a little bit about the neighborhood I grew up in and sort of an ode to that. So this is called 37th and Colorado Boulevard. Can you believe, just downwind from the Purina factory and its rumors of boiled hooves and other tales that frighten children, there are mouths, tongues and teeth and throats conspiring in sound, telling stories. For instance, do you know, at Bethsaida Temple Church, my grandmother has played the piano for 35 years and has played there even as recently as this morning. That I learned to sing His Eye is on the Sparrow right there in the shadow of the oil refinery's glowing lights and towers. And that is an ode to Bethsaida and to Park Hill and to 37th and Colorado Boulevard, and also learning to sing in the midst of a really polluted zip code. This next piece is called When the Rivers Are Burning, When Even the Rivers Are Burning. And I started writing this collection of poems a couple of summers ago. I was actually working on some workshops with Denver Urban Gardens and Lighthouse Writers Workshop. Those workshops were led by Franklin Cruz and Sheree Brown, and I was coordinating those and writing with them. And at the time, that summer, the Amazon was on fire, and it made me really, really consider, like, sitting in those gardens within the city, what it meant to be in nature, what it meant to be in harmony with the earth and disharmony with the earth, and also what our roles and responsibilities are and what things. So a lot of these poems, when I think about, when Poems for the End of the World is the title of this collection, and most of the poems were written well before COVID-19 happened. So the world has gone through many series of endings and beginnings and endings and beginnings. So these are meditations on that. So this is called When Even the Rivers Are Burning. I told my best friend to plant me in the backyard of someone who loves me. Wrap me in a blanket under a tree so I can still feed something. I don't need to be right all the time. In my mind, I have robbed nearly every bank I have entered, gunless and charming with a smile and a note. Have murdered at least a handful of people, some slowly, some quickly, some on repeat. I'm in the practice of burying my need to be liked. I dig it up again most of the time. Humor so sharp it unearths when I call. Laugh at myself for mourning things I've never had. I do not want to waste my life. I do not want to waste my death. I told my daughter the other day that I don't plan to survive her. I meant it. I claim a future as a quiet living thing, a mountain at night. I want to find a beautiful heaven, a blissful revolution, a melted metal, a water clean enough to drink, a peace to wrap around us all in a welcome, welcome, welcome. Find some crisp air to rest inside of. This hand of God has always been my home. I'm a stranger everywhere I go, grateful to be a welcome guest, begging when I'm not. My daughter and I have decided not to survive the apocalypse. We know how to surrender. We know how to change. Of course, I feel like the earth, a mother who knows herself and cares only about her children, who wants to feed even when hungry. This next piece is a meditation on forecasting the future. I think it's incredibly important for all of us to really consider a more beautiful world, a more beautiful future for us all, right? So I think about, I think that's important part of being an activist also, right? And how important it is to have art and dreams and vision, right? To have a more beautiful future to believe in, to work towards, right? If we can't dream it, it's incredibly difficult to build it, to create it, right? So it has to start with the vision. And so this is my vision for a more beautiful, equitable, liberated future. And it's called We Sang Ourselves Free. We didn't always know we would win, just that we would do whatever we had to in order to get free. We used to sing softly to each other, to ourselves, hum low under our breath to remember our voices in places we were unwelcome. We danced in secret. We laughed silently across rooms, taking our quiet joys and tucking them into our pockets like perfumed handkerchiefs we could smell later when we needed to remember. Our foremothers and forefathers built a bridge of sound and hope that only a few could hear. We heard their call from the heavens, though, and we answered them all. We answered, becoming flesh and voice and song. If you listen closely enough, you will know how beautiful we are. Someone tried to stop their music, the love they found each other in, tried to turn them into silence as if they could ever be less than furious messengers of a love lived out loud. Everything we do is song. We are a dance unsilenceable. One day, we saw the first rose bloom in years, when we sang the low notes we'd been singing since before time had a name. We got louder. More people joined in the song, and the grasses awoke from their slumber. The wolves came and sat at our feet, weeping. The rains came down, and the trees remembered us. We began again and we knew God was listening. And the rains came the way they come, slow and sweet at first, washing the old ash and dust to rivers. And then again, there were rivers where we washed our hands and feet, where we washed each other's hair, where we sang our old songs and the earth heard, answering in heather and pine. And she answered in the day's harvest, yellows spiraling into violets, sweets wrapping themselves in spicy oranges and fuchsias, tumbling over each other to embrace the sour and soft fruit of each other. We ate and grew fat again. We all fell madly in love and raised perfect children, the sort of perfect that brought us into each day laughing. We grinned rich as noonday, each of us carrying the songs and teaching them to the children, how to stretch a note all the way into fingertips until the trees begin to sway. You feel that? We answered. We said to each other, our hairs standing to answer the electric air. Yes, we all answered. Yes. And that's a little bit of my vision for the future that I'm hoping for and I'm working for. This next piece, I draw a lot of inspiration from nature. I think particularly when we live in really, really trying times and there's so much bad news, it's really important to slow down as much as possible and observe one beautiful thing every day. In every moment, I try to look around and find something beautiful. And there's always something there, I have discovered. And so this is sort of an ode to that. And also in thinking about the way that things grow and the way that things move and through cycles and seasons. So this poem is called Ocotillo. When a seed is planted or buried, abandoned to the soil, it may not know this is a gift. Yes, sis, cry, wail, moan, tear your hair and gnash your teeth, all of that, then wash the dishes. For much of the year, Ocotillo appears to be an arrangement of large, spiny, dead sticks. With rainfall, the plant becomes lush with green leaves. When water is scarce, the leaves turn brown and fall off. Every earth-cracked, thirsty yearning is a seed. Plant it. Let it crane toward the sun and bloom. Do seeds, the small ones say mustard, get jealous or pray to become bigger seeds? Do they ever wish they could fill themselves up with air? Is that how they imagine growth? Sometimes I press my fingers toward the invitation of sky and say yes. Bend my face to the sun and laugh, remembering how I once clung to the shell I believed was me. With rain, we find Ocotillo swelling, blooming open into bloodshot flowers, earning it the name desert coral. Girl, braid your hair or wrap it up and go, even weeping if you must, somewhere the sun will touch your face. The hummingbird, migrating through the long desert, relies upon the flowers of the Ocotillo for honey nectar. Did you forget the kindness of wind and its longing for your skin, the unrepentant gaze of desert sky? The rivers that open their mouths to your sorrows, ready to carry them someplace you don't need to go. I reimagine myself daily. I abandon old wounds to the soil until they fertilize it. Everything, even waste, has a purpose. Ocotillo can grow up to 20 feet tall. Some say they can live over 100 years. Yes, sis, live. Let your bare feet sink into the mud. I have been afraid and filled with air before, did not know I was a small, hard world becoming large as I unfold. And I will tell you, and I will tell me, I forget and forget my way. What is sweeter than longing for loose, escapable soil is to be rooted in rock, becoming honey on a tender tongue. And I think I'll read perhaps one more poem. I'm doing my best to keep track of time, but I'm really looking forward to hearing my friends read tonight. They are all such beautiful poets, and I'm so grateful that they're all here celebrating with me tonight and reading us some poems. And so I'm going to read one more piece that is about the ways in which we become disconnected sometimes and how we forget to breathe and forget to be in our bodies. And so, and by we, I mean I, but also I think I'm not alone in this. And art allows us to learn that, right? When we think we are completely alone in how we feel. And then we create some art about it. And then other people go, oh, hey, I know that feeling too. And then we create community and we discover that other people feel the way that we feel. And even if they don't feel the way that we feel, we can feel together something. And I think that in itself could be really valuable. So this is a guide how to move back into your body. 1, to move back into your body, you must begin by remembering the nests and caves that you have carved your name on. Every home you have hidden in, you must remember all that you have left there and ask it to return. Your body is the only geography it will know the way. 2, call your names to the winds, all of your names, the ones that belong to you, the ones that your skin still remembers wearing. Keep calling the names until they sing. They will sing. Answer them, yes. Press your tongue flat, open your mouth and sing, yes. It is the only answer one can give in times like these. 3, when your voice begins to vibrate against the tight drum of your throat, when it rattles against your teeth and your cheekbones quiver, plant your feet and spread your arms and learn to breathe. 4, feel the tips of your fingers throb and hum with their new pregnant morning. Clap your hands against your thighs and dance to the resounding echo of your sonorous plump. Eat, drink, laugh until you are music again. Name each moving part, yes. Call the name yes until they open. 5, breathe. Be a hymn for each dawn's dew. Be a sweet whisper, yes. 6, you were once a single drop of water fleeing a dry, hungry tornado, but you will soon see that you are a swallower of storms. That is the grumble in your belly. Say yes. 7, somewhere inside your body, in your belly button perhaps, or lodged deep in your throat, lies the only key you have ever needed to free yourself. Dive into the sunless and press the dark until it opens, revealing itself against your electric fingers. It is there. I promise. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm so excited to hear from the other poets. I have been Suzi Q. Smith, and I'm so excited to reintroduce Erica. Thank you so very much.
Oh, wow. That was simply amazing. And I feel like I need to start my day listening to you and especially listening to that last poem. It just really resonated and comes at such a good timing. Definitely. Thank you so much for gifting us with all of your beautiful words and creativity. So next up, we have our second poet of this evening, Franklin Cruz, and he is a queer Latin dancer, poet, born in Idaho, raised in Texas, and polished in Denver. I absolutely love all of that. Born from an immigrant family, his work has placed him in science museums, environmental spaces, as an MC and poet for dance and poetry competitions and conferences. He aims for specificity over simplicity, encompassing self-love, conservation, immigration, and culture. Welcome, Franklin Cruz.
Thank you, Erika. Gracias todos. And I'm just gonna get started. I did share some links in the chat for the earlier land acknowledgement. One of the practices I'm inviting everyone to do as we come to terms with colonization and decolonizing and really re-indigenizing and giving space for First Nations is follow up your land acknowledgement with specific actions in your community. So all of the people I've shared have specific actions either in Boulder or in Denver, but we have plenty of more places that you can support. So wherever you're at, find your local Indigenous organization and give them money, shout them out, volunteer with them. Indigenous practices are environmental stewardship practices from the beginning. So if we support them, you are in its primary state enacting one of the most fundamental things of environmentalism, which is live with the land in symbiosis, in mutualistic symbiosis, to be specific. So let's share some poems. I have some poems here. A lot of them are lessons, really, is the way I like to put it, or reflections. I have a biology background as well. I did a lot of that in college while I was writing poems. So a lot of this is always filtered through both of my artistic and scientific experiences, but also being a danzante and a dancer and a homo sapien and a spiritual person, there's a lot of other things. So this one's called Winter Proper. I wrote this when it was winter proper, not this spring thing that's going on. On these days, right before the year defrost, for beauty like church bells in love, like salsa dancers at midnight, so lost they forgot the meaning of their own name. The month of winter hearts is for trees to synchronize, a profound rhythm felt in my blood vessels, blessing the blood moving, a magical cellularized prayer, consecrating my circulation. Winter is my time for questions who move slower than spring. Is there ever a body holy enough for heaven? Or is that the wrong question, creator? Is there ever a life holy enough for purity? Again, let me rephrase. Are there ever people who have done the best with their own shadow and divinity to feel human enough to speak with you, finding the answer in their actions? It is winter proper. My hands tremble to remind me of the process of recalentamiento, our steps to emerge from winter, reflective and rejoiced souls. We never named this though. Just release it into the vapor we breathe, visible in the sunlight or moonlight. You can see this preciousness, only in invierno propio. This next poem I'm going to share, I'm just going to truck through these, is actually a poem I got commissioned to write for a project that was talking about specifically masculine folks and homosexuality within the Mexican context of machismo. So this is in Spanish, by the way, so heads up. Aunque seamos reales, ¿quién somos en los ojos de nuestra cultura? Este cuerpo masculino, esta energía que quiere ser más que estos huesos, esta sangre, esta carne. ¿Cómo podemos ser cósmicos cuando todos alrededor me dicen que no puedo amar en la manera que el universo me mandó? Aquí, estas tierras, estos ranchos, ciudades, calles, playas, bosques me dicen que puedo agarrar la mano de otro hombre que habla a la tierra igual que yo. Nosotros somos lingüísticos en el lenguaje del amor y no nos atropellamos en las lenguas. Aquí podemos besar labios como el mar y río finalmente combinando. Y agua siempre será agua aquí. Amor siempre será amor aquí. ¿Y por qué es tan sencillo dicho así? Porque cuando ven nuestras manos enredadas como si fuéramos de siempre, de verdad fuéramos pareja, de verdad nos comprábamos comida, manejábamos juntos, caminamos juntos, cuando estamos solos juntos, es cuando muchas personas dejan ver en su cara que prefieren no dejar espacio por nosotros, no quieren permitir que seamos aceptables, que no seamos permisibles en su mundo, nos dicen del pecado de Dios, pero el universo me mandó a mí. ¿Y a quién invitases a tu mesa? ¿Y por qué a mí no? Y mi pareja no. Aquí nosotros merecemos un lugar igual que las estrellas en la manta azul. Nadie pregunta quién las estrellas aman, quién los árboles aman, ni preguntan de los géneros de esos organismos, ni el género de quien aman, y así nosotros ya vivimos sin juzga. sin falta, sin temor, sin tener que molestar cualquier otro ni a nosotros. ¿Y por qué no podemos vivir así, como estrellas, lunas o árboles, bajo el mismo tierra, la misma luna? Así podemos vivir y así el cosmos quiere. So for those of you who didn't get to have that translated, it's very much a poem talking about how my love is as natural as my favorite lines in this is, my love is as natural as the stars in the blue mantle. And that's a reference to the Virgen de Guadalupe, because her shawl is often called La Manta Azul, and it's because it's peppered, like I like to say, with all the stars from the universe. So I am as natural as the stars on the blue mantle is my favorite line from that. Let's keep trucking along. This next poem was another commission for a conference of growers. And it was kind of like the launching advertising poem for their conference of Black and Brown growers. Shout out Frontline Farming, shout out Brownsville Black and Brown Growers Collective, which I'm a part of. Cool, let's continue. I dare you to build an ecology of hope, tailoring the time and space in honor of the elders, wisdom pathways distilled into a strong collective, storytellers and archetypers, future planning, answering our own wanting prayer. Sprouting is an anybody thing, planning our own survival in the rescue, plotting futures, feeling selfishly about us, conversations that truly afford us impossible, talking about unknotting the system, naming our own landscape, chatting up secrets in the mycelium, fermenting institutional bureaucracies, molding them back into our garden bed frames. We never planned to disintegrate everything. Composting all our lessons, we ferment them into our drinks, liberating ourselves in the libations. Recipes questioning themes and names given before speaking spiritual with the soil, knowing the vast list of ingredients as the wisdom our cultures carry. I dare you to feel that unseen soil, fighting the deals born before we were, convincing the fight to agree to our untitled future, the boundaries we set, where we go to let it go. Welcome to a soul-howling farm. Conspirators throwing up the calls, betting on soils like stocks, we save ourselves in the symbiosis, mutually shape-shifting based on the conversation, risking truth because our blood says so, nostalgic almost, gathering like a galaxy hitting equilibrium, an incessant momentum connecting us. Here, a bond resonates as seriously as a bullet. We're still experimenting, honestly, playfully childlike as we walk with the slowest, teaching by learning an ecology of hope, cultivating the space for the spirit of the soil, working in every way until we're all free. All right, friends, I'm not giving you time to process because I want to read, I think do I have time for 2 more? Someone confirm, because I didn't do as good of a job as Susie is keeping track of time. 1 more, 2 more. I got a yes from Jennifer, 2 more, tight. Okay, this one I wrote for another friend. His name is Ryan Fu, did El Fulminati as a show, and it was commissioned for me to write this poem. If you ever need commissions, I will translate your mission statement, your community agreements, your recipes. You can talk to me about, I've done poems for funerals, weddings. I love doing commission poems. I did Valentine's Day commission poems. Those were really cute. So if you ever just need a poem and you're like, I don't know how to say it, hit me up, I got you. The only 2 words I received for this poem was literally fire and interdependence. And he was like, I trust you, write poems. And I was like, tight. So this is what I got. I remember being a young Texan boy, arriving in Denver, a wee ember of a human, learning how you can't really do much without a crew and the knowledge of mobbing, moving like honeycombs of hidden pendejadas. I arrived with a cold shoulder, never knew how knee-knocking fears disrupted a campfire harmony until my first trip into a mountain friend's city escape. My most daring act was saying, hello, I am, into a community practiced in warm bienvenidas. For a first-timer to the circle who didn't know the name for my dreams of interdependence, it was y'all that grounded me in the reality that we protect ourselves like we believe in ourselves. The cast, audience, and vecinos, not stakeholders, we operate as an ecology over an economy. I do not bargain using my friends' liberation as they do not bargain using mine. We know the chemical burns of the mechanics of industry, systems born before we were, fire cleansing them inside of us, convincing the fight to agree to our entitled future for them whiplash prominences of the sun, those ready to burn it all down. This is a practice in Homo sapien, A gathering of conspirators and cultivators. They know wild to be trained in something ancient. Evolutions know how to be by the fire, holding space like it were a newborn flame, cracking and coursing in the same ancient, already knowing way. Fire is as grassroots as it wants. Fire can be so abolitionist. Fire can use dictatorship. Fire can act with intention, inviting how we can act, see, and become. It's impossible imagining us not succeeding, not becoming exactly what we dreamed of. Nebula ciphering in the hood or barrio, all these years of exothermic being. The most intricate lesson I've learned is living ecologically with y'all, giving everyone the grace to run, swim, fly, grow, rot, flow, warm, or erupt. The grace to be equally as creative and destructive as I am. There is no right and wrong in all of this, solely purpose. Whether there's clarity or not, you see yourself in folks so you can spell check yourself. As we regurgitate recipes, choreographies, proposals, designs, here we get to laboratory out everything this world has invited us to create with, asking what is possible for us? What is available for us? What is for us? Why us? Really us? Of course, us. I got one more poem, another commission poem that I did with Frontline Farming and Naropa University. They were doing this really cool public art display and a zine collaboration, and then I was brought in as a poet to kind of like finalize it. So this will be the last one to share, and thank you so much. And after that, I'll pass it back to Erica. If you ever need to contact me, feel free to reach out. I love collaborating, as you can see, so hopefully we can work something out. We articulated roots, cultivated in shores, mountains, deserts, or cities, saving strays in the streets, our hearts, oh, the places we find strays, weighing the worth of the cost, loss, weight of choices we built human, called to Homo sapien, contemplate, create, coordinate, tailor, toil, toughen, touch, tender till terra. It makes sense in the gardens. Next to the already knowing, listen to every mutualistic ancestor convening with the mycelium, carrots and the neighbors, the birds resting in the trees, bees buzzing, busy, wind always chit-chatting, whispered or not. I feel an exchange from economy to ecosystem. You live here. Feel it too? Thank you.
Thank you, Franklin, for those beautiful words. And thank you everyone who is chiming in the chat. Franklin and Susie, I hope you had a chance to go through those. Franklin, I know you just finished, but ton of kudos. And I think my favorite one was Franklin giving us all the medicine. So thank you all for all those comments. We really do appreciate them. It's always interesting being virtual, sharing a virtual space versus in person, and appreciate everyone just chiming in and sharing what you're feeling and what you're connecting with. So feel free to do that. So next up, we've got Sueyeun Juliette Lee, and she currently lives in Denver and works as the program director at Chinook Fund. Her books include Underground National, which is currently at Factory School Press in 2010, Solar Maximum, Future Poem in 2015, No Comet, That Serpent in the Sky Means Noise, on Core in 2017, and Aerial Concave Without Cloud, available at Nightboat in 2021, so just this year. She is a former Pew Fellow in the Arts for Literature. She's held international residency in video art and poetry and presented work at the Denver Art Museum, Artwork Center for Contemporary Art, Chicago's Citywide Performance Arts Festival and Time, and the Asian Arts Initiative. She also writes essays on race, contemporary poetics, and the avant-garde, which have appeared with Cambridge University Press, Iowa University Press, and the Poetry Foundation, and Entropy Magazine, and elsewhere. So we are so happy that we were able to make this work. And Sueyeun, please take it away.
Hi, thank you so much. I just feel so honored to be in such blessed community with these incredible culture makers, builders, organizers, activists, and people who just like inspire me deeply. So thank you. Oh yeah, Franklin, my friend Sonia made me this earring. So I will drop her link later if people are interested in some jewelry. When I was thinking about how to open tonight, I thought I wanted to share some science fictional poetry first. I think that we're in, evidently, it feels apparent to me like a planetary crisis. And so I love the speculative or the science fictional as a way to help us expand our imaginations and to imagine just like what possibilities are a little differently. So I'm going to read a couple sci-fi poems. If there's a unity in sentiment, it hasn't been uncovered. To remember something long afterwards without blood ringing in the ears is a small step forwards in a long stream of being. It's beautiful to remember pastels after sunsets, to savor an imagined snow cone when the red lip is all remaining. It is beautiful to love the sound that fails to echo down the hallway when you depress the word for light. If there's a unity in sentiment and language after you dove into the sun, if there's a place on the page to be discovered that can replace body heat or human voices unmarred by space, then it is the most beautiful space, the most beautiful sentence. Inquiring into replacements for LED lights, of the possible electronic emanations in freeze, of remaining evanescent without excitement, broadcasting some haze. These are the blueprints we should build by, the prints in the sand towards different crystal palaces by the word sea. The ancient starfish understands this quest. The sea dragon is of a kind. This is the 5th day of February. It is 1018 degrees outside. An array becomes an organizational method. That we circulate became an elemental profusion, which we captured meticulously on a 3-dimensional grid. I move, enamored with a haphazard sense of longing. We dismantle gently. It's a profoundly necessary task. It grows more difficult to track the space between a transmission and its object, many of which we capture just through rotation like a threat. This is filmed, a durational container. The sequence captures both what we are seeing and have ever seen, but backwards into a long span. A gradual violence takes shape here in the space we renamed Twilight. Its halo hangs over the single ocean, the radius a triumphant index of all the walls we have left to climb. The study proves inconclusive. Our samples suggest a recurring discrepancy, meaning we have to trick the light. And this is my last science fictional poem, A Devastation of Unknown Magnitude. To the small star inside, we set up a makeshift rotation which gives us each a momentary relief. Watching is a rudimentary course of action, and we detail each thought as it appears. This is a gentle activity despite the aggressiveness of the surroundings. A thought is the beginning of an opening. We work diligently to trace its aperture, the outline of its extent. When he tells us he simply doesn't know and is unable to track any origins, we recognize our rotation has failed. The small star inside is an obvious integer, but to this he has become blind. Our job is simple, but can lead to a devastation of unknown magnitude. The inconclusiveness of feelings that arise moves with a heat and dynamism analogous to the surface of the sun. In the end, our documents amount to the need for a primary mother. One member of our party becomes obsolete. I wanted to share another poem. So one thing about me is I tend to work in like longer forms. So this piece is called The Incident, and it's a poem in series, just meaning it's in like different parts. And the incident is actually also a physics term. An incident ray is a ray of light that bounces off of a surface. And also an incident is like an event. And often when I hear the word incident, it like covers over like a traumatic event or something bad that happened. And I'm just feeling a lot of things over this last week. So, and even just the season in the last year. And I feel like this is kind of getting at that feeling for me and the situation we're all in as a planet and people. So the incident. A narrow band to which one is sensitive, beyond which lies the invisible. Some is inevitably lost. How so? To fall is a great incident. To fall slowly, without injury, is to become a magnitude in reckoning. All things fall gracefully. Are you grateful for what has fallen into you? Standard, average, common, all integrated in a single reading. To make a record, one must capture what is reflected, evaluating what one wants to be represented. In counterclockwise rotation, arms outstretched, feel the sun's hard blue descent into the black coal of your breathing body. Gather without reflection, gather infinitely, grow fine as the needles spray along the skin. Surmise the quality of infinite duration, flexing intimate storms into apparel, all dark scintillation and honed. I sought to uncover my primary mother's body first by standing alone on the basalt coast. All gleamed with the crystal equanimity. Stark blue light coursed upwards with suspension as the slow heat dissolved into my pores. Flexing the long stones inside my legs as mass, I moved with a deliberate, calculated pace towards the shore. That which travels from one place to another, interacting with matter, can be transformed. It would be incomplete, or the law would fail if the transfers and transformations were not accounted for. No exact correspondences, an approximation. To form a descriptive system appropriate with minor modifications to a wide range of observations in sound and light, as well as to waves. Can a body be indifferent to the incident, to all common properties that disturb? By its use, certain important results are obtained in a simple way. I would like to speak simply. You. Bleached convoy, my words fluttered on no flag. Without fire, they relinquish their missives reflectively, casting a negative, an old fury now quelled into a neutral desire to simply see, to recover what conjured forth a name. Some is inevitably lost. Bow slowly and rise, transform the crown of the head into a vertical duration. Strive to announce a perfectly quiet reception in your limbs, now steadfastly affirmed by polar coordinates. Find purchase in the dark curling swarm that were once toes. If the disturbance has a scalar quantity, if the disturbance produces a similar disturbance at a neighboring point at a slightly later time, if the disturbance is continually transformed from one place to another. What is neglected in the present discussion? Strive to determine the initial conditions. Flower into what must hold. Thanks all. So that's my longer poem. And I think I have time for like 2 more. So I'm going to read this poem. It's sort of like a draft, which I don't typically do, but I feel safe here. So it's called The Scar. And I had the opportunity to be outside of Seattle in Washington State, which is like a really green, lush place. And I was kind of wandering along the side of the road and ended up on this like path where I got a little lost. And I came across this giant clear cut. And it just, I don't know, it really astonished me once just because that contrast of like this really rich, verdant, lush forest and then this like clear cut. And I realized that those were being put up for like vacation homes for really wealthy people. And I just got this like pain and rage through me. So I just sort of saw that space as like a scar. So this is me trying to think about scar. The scar. In the end, feral children discover our bodies, now bleached into silver. Ash slides, feathers ardently into the darkness. A vertical imagination dominates this landscape. I'm not immune to its patterns. The scar. At the beginning, dandelions and tall reeds, dry spring grasses. After so many hours, time elongates. After so many hours, never dissipation, a memory. At the beginning, a clutch of frail pink blossoms, small bursts of spun breath in my hand. A drone shudders overhead. Were we so unremarkable finally, alone in the last light? The scar, with nameless curiosity, he reached out a hand. Trace a golden perimeter in birdsong. Make fragrant the single sky. The scar, green then silvered accents along the forest floor, soft with lost seeds and rot. Mushrooms crowd together for survival. We tend to see an enterprising colony, not a clutch of individuals begging to live. The scar, recollect the electrical discharge, erotic intensity housed in your lymph. Were we monumental along the pale horizon at noon? Now, walk without mirrors. Now, be loud in your own noise. The scar, worlds and worlds again, blankly, nodules of inattention uprooted in the light, white desiccation, whose glory? So to close, I wanted to share a last poem, which is short, but it is a little bit of a grief poem, which I just wanted to acknowledge. And I think a lot of us are moving through a lot of complexity emotionally as a species and as individuals. I think we're here today because we find comfort in art and also in our relationship to the world and to the planet. And so this is, for me, a little way of regeneration out of that grief. So it's called After Noise. And who are you now in this different blue space without pain? Remarking on chemtrails or snowmelt, misreading the sea, whose letters cease to arrive. Remain transfixed in mid-flight, turbulent coasts, aloft as a principle of life. Count invisible clams under nameless sands. Cut apostrophes into the air, announcements. Send far-flung greetings to strangers for days. Keep the magma enigma at bay. Daily joys. Effaced, vaporous, pale, generous smoke rising. So cling to the dark hand inside you, its basalt fingers rounded. That's my time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Such beautiful words, and each poem hits you so differently. And I think someone said like, maybe it was Franklin, that no time to like, sort of kind of talk and just unfold everything that was just said, but really appreciate all of that, and you as well for sharing that with us. That was just, that was great. The last poet that we have today is Sheree Brown. She is an experienced writer, Afrofuturist, world builder, dreamer, creative, educator, and mother. As a time traveler from the stars, she practices the medicine of plants, healing timelines, and curating creative space. Her offerings include providing healing and ritual services, consulting around the intersections of health equity and healing justice practices, as well as creative writings and futurist world building workshops. So really excited to hear Sheree, and take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I feel really grateful. Yeah, okay, let's just hop into the thanks. Yay. Okay. This first poem, so all the poems that I, chose have an element to do with earth, with plants, with medicine, with all of the beautiful cosmic things. So this first poem is called Cosmic Woman Plants. La mujer del tiempo cósmica prepares to plant the seeds that will carry elements of herself and nourish future beings. When you are in need of cleansing, I will grow on your front doorstep. And even if you try to weed me out, I'll grow in the brightest color that you can't ignore. Your restoration deserves to be seen. When your heart aches, I will grow as fruit, petal, and thorn. The softest of things that only care can reach, and recklessness will be painful and scorned. Reach for me when you need both tenderness and boundary. When you need be reminded that not everything blooms in day, that magic exists in your night. Watch me bloom under moonlight, poison or cure. I am simultaneous multitudes. Cuidado. The medicine you need, I will already know. I read it as you walk past. I am the medicine that will outlast all of your tests. Find me on mountaintops and glistening under morning dewdrops. Find me in concrete cracks and bursting through brick houses. I am the companion of your joyous days. I am what the imagination arouses. I will remind you of your souls and how to reach for the sky. Despite how distracted you get, I will always be close by. Keepers of day and night, cycles and time. Las plantitas bear witness to this, your sacred life. Okay, that's the first one. Thank you. This next one I wrote at a time. This is more of like flash fiction. I wrote this when in deep communion with the rose, and kind of like negotiating with that medicine, how that medicine was landing with me, and how important and forgotten I wasn't even thinking about the medicine of the thorn, and how important that was. And so this was at a time when I was like really working through what that medicine really meant for me. But also it's fiction, so it's not exactly literal. Anyway, thorns. The roses bloomed when no one was looking and reminded admirers of their ways as they drew blood with thorns of boundary. She, the rose, never once anticipated her children being bred to grow without thorns, being made easier to the touch. She never imagined beings who would take without threat, and to not have caution and care while coming for her, harvested for beauty and convenience alone. Since when did my boundaries stop being medicine? Her own falling apart had awakened the parts of her that kept her alive. She needed the trauma for the seeds to arise, despite what she told herself. The gifts of the dark were more beautiful than she imagined, only because she allowed for herself to be held and to let her shattered aspects exist fully. She was the sort that could never say no. She bent and she gave under the weight of men's desires. She followed plans for her life that came from the mouths of others, and yet she thought herself to be strong and radical in the ways that mattered. When trauma came to test, she discovered how permeable her boundaries had been, forever marred because she failed to speak from her spine. Upon returning from the depths of her own death, she drank rose tea and pondered the steps that led to her dismemberment. She drank rose tea and conjured the courage to keep her heart open, because she must bloom despite the winds that threatened to uproot. Bloom for herself because it was written in her genes. She drank rose tea and prayed for her daughters to reclaim the temperament of fire and thorns, so that no man would dare reach for the beauty that did not belong to them without spilling blood first. I know that was kind of a lot. Oh. Okay, so I'm sending love to all your tears. I'm glad we're all able to release together, because this is definitely medicine for me too. Okay, so this next poem I will read has to do with like the medicine of like shadow and earth and the way those two things like hold us. Lunar blossoms of white, potent petals, dosage of toxin or cure, she opens her lips for moonlight only. Moon dew elixirs of breath and time lapse, who dares to bloom in darkness? Traversing dark cities in the depths of the caverns of our being, till the terrain becomes one with maps and memory. Do you know the textures of your own shadows? Do you know the tastes of your own sounds, the smell of your own fears, the sight of your soul's deepest gifts? When night falls, we fall into the illusion that we're lost, that darkness is synonymous with traps, that monsters and creatures lurk beyond us, when in actuality, they are all wearing your face. Walking in the dark deserts under southwest skies of galaxies and antepasados, nahuales y saguaros, abuelas y milagros. Slowly we awaken to darkness as source, our first mother. We see her for the magic and nurture that she is, the death of darkest nights and the illumination of starry skies. Drink her medicine, poison or cure. Close your eyes and open sight. Feel the wind and fire of truth, that she is you, the heart of your root. Okay. This next piece doesn't have a name. I just wrote it. And this was written in specifically it was written in liminal space with other Black femme bodies. So this is kind of the medicine that came out of that space. Black time spaces interacting with timelines, whose ancestors are in the room interlocking. Purple woven braids of Black magic, a sweet melody hummed into every fiber. We are constantly blessed by Black femme magic. Black spaces are homegoings, and what is death but a return? What is release but a liberation? Who is death but an ancestor. Sweet water. I return to all that I am, a return to now, collapsing timelines to come home. I am ready to be full, rested and connected, resonant and powerful, embodied peace. I seek the sweetness of healing dimensions. Who can I be when I am in the depths of my presence and power? What practices can I cultivate in the roots of my honesty? Fire and ash, we experience the earth falling, contemplating the consequences of climate shifts, common ancestors calling us out, calling us in. Who are we in portals of breath and memory, reflections across ocean space, diasporic interspace we love. Care for your vessel is lovemaking. You are caring for every ancestor whose blood beats in your veins. Care for us, they say. And what is care but water and intention? A deep breath, a letting go, a cloak of protection, a step of faith, a decision empowered. Speak to us in water and smoke. Hear us in earth and sound waves. I am deserving of what love can offer. I am receptive to what time can give. Thank you for this tethering of celestial blood and body, this ritual bonding of ancestral memories, living within me, breathing, animated. When we resonate, we rise and return home, back to ourselves. You can't quit me because you can't quit yourself. And how beautiful we are, miraculous and holy, too honey and resounding to ever give up on ourselves. We deserve to be here. And what is it to deserve but to step into birthrights, step into the dreams waiting for you? Thank you for not giving up on me, on us. There are Black people in the future, and there is no quitting, only rest. So rest assured that we will always be. Okay. So this next piece, I feel really happy about. Excuse me. This next piece, I also just wrote in honor of Earth Day. I love you, Susie. Okay, so this next piece, it's new. It's very fresh. But I feel good about sharing it here in this space. This is in honor of Earth Day. This is a very important, close to my heart declaration of sustainability and what is unsustainable. This poem is called, "It is Unsustainable to Kill Black People." It is unsustainable to kill Black people. Call up your best environmentalists, permaculturalists, earth guardians, urban farmers, urban planners, horticulturalists, beekeepers, scholars, and activists, and let them know that it is unsustainable to kill Black people. What makes you think that this planet will be livable, breathable, thriving if we are gone? It is unsustainable to disappear Black bodies. Incarceration is unsustainable for Black families. Black families are integral to the health of Black children, and the future depends on the health of Black children. You cannot call yourself a so-called earth warrior and not also fight for the liberation of Black people. You cannot claim to care about climate change and not also fight for abolition. Make it make sense, Permaculture Paul. The privilege of wanting to create closed loop bioregional systems while turning a blind eye to Black and brown prison labor for profit. We do not exist in a vacuum. Your farmers markets mean nothing when migrant families who picked your fruta are overworked, severely underpaid, and threatened with deportation. We do not exist in a vacuum. We need each other. But I am also tired of my labor being needed in order to uphold a privileged reality simulation for people who are determined to not reconcile with their own humanity in order to see my own. Black labor is sacred. Black labor is immeasurable in its value. And to exclude Black people from the conversations around sustaining this planet is to exclude the very richness of this soil. To continue causing harm to Black women is to make this planet unbreathable. I need you to imagine Black people in every future, in every timeline. I need you to imagine us in joy, in mid-laughter. Imagine us in the parks, at brunch, at playgrounds. Imagine us alive. Imagine us alive. Imagine us alive. Killing Black people is unsustainable, and I shouldn't have to convince you as to why. Thank you. That was on my heart. It was very beautiful. I went to a Bioneers conference some years ago. And I was really, really grateful and inspired when Lisa Calderon had given she was one of the, not a panelist, but one of the guests presenting. I will, Susie. And she had spoken about like mass incarceration. And I was just so like shaking in my bones. Like, why is this not a part of every conversation around sustainability? Like, this is an insane, unsustainable system. And this should, and it's directly correlated to preserving the planet and preserving the integrity of life itself. And so I was really grateful to have seen that coming from somebody who, I really respected. And I was like, hello. So in honor of Earth Day, that was my Earth Day poem. And for my last poem, I wrote this with some youth last year for a summer camp. Yeah, and it's really beautiful. On the other side of that field of sunflowers awaits a reality so sweet that in order to greet it, you must first greet the rising sun. Greet the smiles of every sunflower. Greet the breeze on your neck, the warmth on your cheeks. And on the edge of that field is your next breath, a deep, nourishing breath that fills your heart with resonant reminders that you are here, alive, and existing beyond time. Some wise folks say that the future is your next breath, and you found yours here in this field of the sun's dreams. On the other side of that field lies your freedom, something no one, nothing can give you, the liberation you have long fought for, till you realize liberation is not a battle, but a breath. And it starts with you meeting that breath, hands outstretched, greeting the golden rays of the sun, the portal, less a door, more a journey, a pathway, an experience to feel human, eternal. All we've lost pales in comparison to the freedom we've won. Quote, when I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. Harriet Tubman. If I could kiss the lips of my freedom, it would taste like a sweet mint. My healing would taste like honey. I will wait for you here, beloved, in this field of sun's dreams, singing your healing till the realities meet. Thank you. That was my last poem. So I love you all. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for having me. And I will pass it back to our lovely host.
Wow, thank you so much. And yeah, I feel like I definitely needed some tissue. What an incredible evening. I really want to thank all of today's poets for sharing their brilliance and their talent with us. That was such an incredible, it was just really incredible. And I hope that each of you walk away. We have so much to walk away with. So thank you. You also know that there's always a team of people in the background making things happen. And I know they don't want to be thanked, but I can't end it without saying thank you to our library team, Jen and Dodie. Thank you so much for your efforts to bring this program to the community. And yeah, just overall, thank you for joining us in celebrating National Poetry Month and Earth Day. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to learn more about upcoming programs. Our website, denverlibrary.org, is the best place to learn about all of the programs available. And due to COVID, we're still hosting all of our programs virtually. So hoping that that makes it a little accessible for more people to join us. And also a friendly reminder that our branches are now officially open, except for Byers and Smiley. So stop by and grab your next favorite book of poems or whatever you want to cuddle up to. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to Suzi Q, I believe, to finish the program, to say a few words.
But thank you for turning it back over. I clearly, my friends read some poems and made me cry. Probably you cried as well. And so thank you all for being here tonight. I just want to say once again, thank you so much, Franklin Cruz. Thank you so much, Sueyeun Juliette Lee. Thank you so much, Sheree Brown. Thank you, Erica Martinez, for being our host tonight. And thank you so much, Jen and Dodie, for visioning this together and for bringing me into it. This has been a beautiful night. It was what I needed in my heart, clearly, were these beautiful poems and these incredible poets. And I just want to hang out in a cabin with you guys and write poems and weep for a while. And I think that might be how we save the planet, might be how we save each other, might be how we save ourselves and our future generations. I'm not sure, but I think poetry's got something to do with it. And I'm really, really grateful I got to be here tonight. So I hope that you go to the library soon and check out some poetry, write some poetry. There are, we've got a link here that Dodie just posted, the Poetry Core Collection. And I encourage, to read some poetry. It's still National Poetry Month right now. But also every month is National Poetry Month. Every day is Earth Day. And I'm really, really grateful that we got to consider who we are and how we're shaped and our connection to the places that make us and the people and the communities that make us and our interactions with those, and especially the future. So thank you again so much for being a part of this day and also for envisioning a future with us. Really grateful I got to be here. Thank you again for being here tonight, and good night.